Oh, goodness. That's the breaking news siren. Well, Kellen Moore is officially the Saints coach. We won't get into the Twitter fights about who broke the news, but it's out there. It's official. It's done. Kellen Moore is the Saints head coach. Remember, as always, Saints breaking news on Saints Happy Hour is brought to you by Hard Hide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. You can pick up a bottle wherever fine spirits are sold in Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, and Tennessee. To learn more and to find a bottle near you, go to hardhidestrawberrywhiskey.com. Are we excited? I got
Ralph, no,
Oh,
no, we're not.
Here we
We're not. Listen,
Why?
Kellen Moore is going to come to this team. He's not taking Jalen Hurts with him. He's not taking Saquon Barkley with him.
What about the offensive line, though? What about the offensive line? Do we get them?
He's not taking any of the defense with him.
Do we get Doug Nussmeier's dad?
He's not taking. It's just him. It's just
Do
the
we
B.
get
It's just the B.
complimentary Bradley Cooper's
Myers'
cheesesteaks?
Whatever.
Do we get cheesesteaks?
We get nothing but Kellen Moore and his big teeth. That's it.
I gotta say, Andrew.
I for one am going to cross my arms and tuck my chin and say harumph.
Andrew,
Thank you,
I
Saints.
said harumph.
Thank you, Saints Twitter, for your hot take there.
For your input.
I feel like, Andrew, I know the social media is going to give the Saints crap because they always do. But you said this on Twitter, I think, during the game as the Eagles were just crushing the Kansas City. You said something along the lines of, if the Saints, if you told us the day they fired Dennis Allen, if you were like, the Saints are going to hire the offensive coordinator of the team that wins the Super Bowl, we'd all like high five and be like, hell yeah. I forgot your exact tweet, but that's how you put it. And like, you can say whatever you want about you didn't like the process. People said no, la, la, la. But like in the end, like a team that scored 33 points and crushed it in the Super Bowl, like the Saints are getting their offensive coordinator. Like that's a pretty good process.
I feel like if there was some rule that you couldn't hire a head coach until after the Super Bowl, like period, like you could hire no one until after the Super Bowl, Kellen Moore, like I think his stock would have skyrocketed. So it's interesting that like going into this process, the Saints kind of zeroed in on him as the guy, and it wasn't like other teams were beating down the door being like, this is who we want, right? Like Johnson was kind of viewed from the Lions as like the most innovative, like the best offensive coordinator. Obviously Vrabel was one of at the top of the food chain, maybe Aaron Glenn. I feel like if it had played out that way, or if, let's say Kellen Moore doesn't take a job this year and it would have been entering next season, I feel like he would have been at the top, you know?
Yeah.
Just based on how these playoffs played out, the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl, where like he was just on a heater in the biggest games at the end of the year, absolutely shredding these defenses. And so, I mean, yeah, he had great players. He had a great quarterback, a solid tight end, two great receivers, a running back that maybe put together the best season in NFL history, a really solid offensive line, and that offense was really tough to stop. So, but you know, you also, there's a lot of coaches that have great playmakers like that, and they don't put together 40-point games.
When was the last time When was the last time a team won the Super Bowl and we're like, this team is like a bottom 10 roster. This is the greatest coaching job I've ever seen. Like it never happens. Right. Maybe like Tom Brady's first Super Bowl where you look at that Patriots team, but whatever. Kevin.
Here's the funny thing. Last night, I'm watching the game, and in the fourth quarter, I'm thinking to myself, boy, who the hell's going to win the MVP award?
Yeah.
Because nobody was standing out. You had Cooper DeJean with the interception, pick 6. You had Zach Bond with a pick, and like he was doing things. The field goal kicker was making all the kicks, even when he had to redo them. He made the first one, then made the one that counted.
You had a couple guys with 2 sacks.
Right. And then neither receivers stood out enough for me. Jalen Hurts at the time wasn't standing out. Saquon wasn't doing enough.
Mm-hmm.
It honestly, this felt like, and then ultimately, even when Jalen Hurts won, and I can see it because of the rushing and the touchdown that he got. This was the most complete, like all phases of the game win that I've seen in a Super Bowl that I can just recall. Like offense, defense, special teams, all were.
Everybody stepped up.
He's
right. Everything worked, and the guy that was in charge of the offense is now going to run the Saints.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say that I don't like about this hire is, Kevin, this hire makes me feel tremendously old, because not only is the Saints coach, not only is he way younger than me, he looks like he's 12. And I can't grow facial hair to save my life. And he looks like he hasn't shaved twice a week in his entire life. And so this hire makes me feel really, really old.
Yeah, well, it should, Ralph, because you are very old.
I am.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't get. Like, would Saints Twitter be happier if we hired a coach that was involved in a team that had 7 wins, but the roster was awful and it was a miracle they got 7 wins? They're like, oh yeah, give me that guy. That guy's turned water into wine, and with those 7 wins, like, I'm all about that guy. No, I mean, look, on paper, you should absolutely be pumped that the offensive coordinator of the Super Bowl winning team, and by the way, there's all these narratives that no one wants to come here too. Like, that's also a thing. So the fact that the Super Bowl offensive coordinator wants to come to the Saints, wants to take that job, like, we should all be thrilled by that. I don't know how this is going to go. None of us do. We don't know if this will succeed or not. But on paper, this is like a hire that any team searching for a head coach would want.
Yeah. It's just, the thing is with coaching, like the coaching cycles, I can never figure out, like, why is Ben Johnson the guy and teams are falling all over themselves to get him?
Well, I mean, Detroit,
and let me finish.
It must be that he hasn't won a Super Bowl. It must be that.
Well, Detroit had a massive turnaround and became suddenly really good.
Well, that's
like
true.
The Eagles had sort of already been good.
No. I won't accept that answer, Kevin, because the Eagles last year in a playoff game, their offense was an abject disaster. Todd Bowles, I don't even think he game planned. He was just like, we're going to do this one blitz. And his team was like, you got to game plan more than one blitz. He's like, don't worry about it. Their offensive line isn't going to figure it out. And literally, Tampa just did the same blitz over and over and over again and destroyed the Eagles in a playoff game. So, like, Kellen Moore, like, everybody, yes, their offense is loaded, but he fixed it. And the point I was making, Kevin, is...
but he was all... I mean, we could say Saquon fixed it potentially too, right?
Yes. That true.
Yeah, just devil's advocate.
Yeah, but they did some changes on the offensive line, and either way, like, at the end of last year to this year, it was completely different, and the Eagles look miles off winning a Super Bowl. But my point is,
Ralph, to take that a step further, though, like, the first 3-4 weeks of the season, the Eagles' offense looked terrible too.
Yeah, they did.
It wasn't like week 1, like, Saquon's here now and it fixed everything. Like, it took Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
Like 5 weeks to get that thing going.
Yeah, because it was 4 weeks, then the bye.
I mean, they barely looked like absolute shit against the Saints.
Yeah.
Right. And then they barely beat the Browns. It's like once you got to that Giants game in week 7 is when they were rolling, because with that Browns game, they went on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a 10-game winning streak. Like, honestly, I tweeted this last night. I said, it's funny how Nick Sirianni at the end of last year was on the hot seat for how the Eagles just shit the bed down the stretch, then lost in the wild card, and he just, like, the team fell apart under his watch. And then this season starts to this season starts, They're meandering. He's kind of aloof. He seems antagonistic towards the fan base, yada, yada, yada. This guy seems like a dead man walking. And then, what do you know? The team just wins the damn Super Bowl. And they got Saquon Barkley, and I choose to believe that Nick Sirianni was hitting his knees before climbing into bed every night and thanking God for both Saquon Barkley and the New York Giants general manager being a fucking idiot. But yeah.
I would just say, like, they're like, to your point, Andrew, at the beginning of the show when you said, listen, if you couldn't hire a coach until after the Super Bowl champion was done, if no team could hire a coach, like, there's no difference between Kellen Moore and Ben Johnson. The only difference is perception and what teams think of these guys.
I think this rule saved the Saints.
Oh my God.
Sorry, the lack of that rule that no one could make a hire until post Super Bowl. Like, if that was a rule, hypothetically, that it existed, the Saints wouldn't be getting Kellen Moore. I believe that in my heart. Like, they're fortunate to be getting him.
100%.
They wouldn't have.
100%, because I really believe that if Jacksonville is going to give Liam Cohen like 5 years and like $12 million a year, like, and they sort of panic hired him, they 100% would be like, we're getting Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore, don't you want to come coach Trevor Lawrence? Like, I believe it worked out in the Saints' advantage. So
Mickey Loomis got lucky again.
Yeah,
that's what that is. That's what that is. That's what that is. He's not coming with any of the players. He's not coming with the defense. Mickey gets lucky again. He Forrest Gumps his way through everything.
I gotta say, Aaron, Andrew, now that Kevin's brought it up, like, that excites me. When people like Kevin make the case that Loomis might have just stumbled his way into this by accident, like, that gets me excited, because that's when the Saints thrive the best.
Yes.
Like when
yeah.
Andrew, not that we can know about the staff, because we don't know what he's going to hire, and it can be. And you've said many times, you've talked to people in the league. It can be harder when you're at the end of the hiring cycle. It's harder to get the staff you want. But the one thing that makes me the most excited about Kellen Moore is, and it's a point you brought up about Philadelphia, they struggled the first part of the year, and also, like, Kellen Moore is not a guy that has worked with the same kind of quarterback and he runs his offense and he makes it work. Like, he's a guy worked with Dallas, worked with the Chargers, Justin Herbert, worked with Philadelphia. Like, he's worked with different quarterbacks. He says, I just do what works. Like, I'll keep what works and we'll make it better. Like, to me, he reminds me, not in personality of Sean Payton, but he does have that tinker mentality on offense. Like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm not married to my way of doing it. I don't even care if we got to run it 45 times with Kamara and whatever running back the Saints draft this year. Like, if we got to run it 45 times to win, that's cool. If we got to throw it, if we got to run option, whatever. Like, I like that about him. He doesn't seem he doesn't seem like married to like one thing.
I'm with you. Yeah. I think with Kellen Moore, we can trust, generally speaking, that the game plan is going to be solid. He's going to put the work in. He's going to consistently be watching film, and X's and O's are going to be solid. He's going to come up with good plans. He's going to give us a chance to win offensively based on just schematically what he comes up with. We know he's a dork. We know he'll get in the football dork, I should say. He'll get in the weeds. Football nerd, maybe is. Yeah, but anyway, he'll get in the weeds on the game planning. He'll come up with something solid. He's a likable guy. He's very intelligent. Like, those are all the things we can count on. Leadership qualities, we'll see. How players respond to him. I generally think in this day and age, players care less about, like, if you're smart and you give them a good game plan to go execute to win, like, they respect it. So I think leadership will be okay. He's a super positive guy. He's a likable guy. Will he hire a good defensive coordinator? Will the defense support kind of what he's able to bring to the table offensively. I mean, that was the question with DA. Would he get a good quarterback? Would he get a good offensive coordinator to support him? It was the same question with Sean Payton, right? Will he get a good defensive coordinator to kind of support that side of the ball? So Kellen Moore will need that. So he'll need to make a good hire. That's a question mark on that side of the ball, especially, the defense is aging and it wasn't very good this past year. So that's something that he'll need to support him. He's going to have to hire a good staff. You just mentioned that's going to be tough. So yeah, there's question marks, no doubt. Like there are things that are in the Saints' way that would prevent them from being successful with Kellen Moore. They don't have a quarterback right now. I mean, we'll see what the decision is with Derek Carr. That should happen in short order. The cap situation makes it difficult to assemble talent. They're going to have to draft really well. Like, what's his ability to draft and recognize talent and make it work and develop it? So again, there's some question marks, but the big thing I agree with Ralph is that I like that he's had a myriad of like experiences and some failures and some successes. He's been in the league. He's seen what's failed. He's seen what's worked. He comes to the Saints hot. Like he just won a freaking Super Bowl. But I like that he's not an assistant coach that's been in one spot. He's now worked with Dak Prescott and he's had success in Dallas. He worked with one of the best young quarterbacks in the league in Justin Herbert. We know that Chargers experience didn't work really well. Coach ended up getting fired there. It was a mess of a situation. So he was only with the Chargers for 1 year. I think he would probably view that experience as a failure, but nonetheless, like that offense did have some success and Herbert's a good quarterback. And then obviously he goes to the Eagles. And so that's a completely different quarterback style from Herbert and Dak. And you made the good point that he really adjusted. He was like, okay, these are the things that work for Jalen Hurts. And I haven't called an offense like this before. And I'm going to be different to fit in with this quarterback in the way he likes to operate, in the way that he plays and leverage his skill set. So it's really encouraging to see that he's had those different experiences and he's been successful in different places.
Kevin, I'm excited about this hire for a couple of reasons. The first reason is, like it or not, the Saints are now linked to the Dallas Cowboys for as long as Kellen Moore is the coach. Because the Cowboys fired Mike McCarthy and apparently loved Kellen Moore. Like, he was their quarterback. They moved him right from backup quarterback to on the staff. So, they loved him. But when it came time to hire him, they only spent an hour and 15 minutes on the Zoom with him. So, they're linked. The Saints are now linked to the Cowboys. If the Cowboys are doing poorly and the Saints are doing good, the Florios, the entire social media world, Cowboy fans are going to be like, you could have had Kellen Moore. You could have had him.
And he would have taken that job over the Saints.
Oh, my God. He would have taken that job in a heartbeat. Yeah. Schottenheimer, before, if Kellen Moore, it's official because we've seen the tweets from different news people, but if he hasn't signed the paper and Schottenheimer dropped dead today, and the Cowboys wanted him and the paper's not signed, the Cowboys could probably still get him. But my point is, now he's linked there. But also, Kevin, this is a serious question. Because Andrew, I think, described him perfectly. He's a football dork. And I think a football dork, I think it's fine now. I think Andrew's 100% right. I think players, as long as you put them in the right places, you help them succeed, you help them make a ton of money, they'll follow you. They'll do what you say.
The Dolphins love McDaniel.
Yeah, they love him. They're right. They love him.
Here's the thing.
But Kevin,
we need to disabuse this notion with football dork. We're saying football dork because he's really into football and he does look like a dork. Because I'm gonna say the hot take here, which shouldn't be a hot take. Vince Lombardi, football dork. Yeah. John Madden, football dork. Bill Belichick, football dork. Yeah. These guys,
John Payton, maybe?
Sure.
Yeah.
These guys don't ascend to the mountaintop at a game of X's and O's in which things have to be meticulously crafted and planned and hit at just the right time. You don't have that kind of success. You don't scheme up that kind of stuff unless you are a dork. And that's fine. You want a dork running your team. It just so happens that our football dork kind of looks like a dork.
I think it's personality. It's not just appearance, though. Like,
yes, it is.
I actually retract the Sean Payton comment because I think so. Like, you look at the press conference with Campbell or even Aaron Glenn this year. Certainly Sean Payton. These are alphas. These are type A personalities that they come into a room and there is no question they're going to rally the troops. They're going to motivate you. They're going to slam their fist on the table and they're going to say, you guys are going to run through this brick wall. We're going to beat this team because if we don't, there's going to be hell to pay and you're all going to be accountable. And so like they motivate that way, right? That's the personality. That's not Kellen Moore. That's not, I mean, one end of the spectrum is DA, where like he's not that way either. He's not a motivator, and everything he says falls flat. And we've seen how that goes. But then you have your McDaniels, you have your other guys who they don't motivate like Sean Payton or Dan Campbell, but they have still had success in the league. So anyway, it's not just an appearance thing. I do think it's a personality.
Final question, then we'll get out of here. Final, and I want both of you to answer, is like, is there any other hire they could have made that would have made you happier than this one? And I will start by saying I was on the Rizzy train. I was on Rizzy Island. I was the only person that in Saints Twitter land, or maybe Saints fan at all, that wanted Rizzy. I was sad for like 30 seconds when Schefter tweeted, and the tweets came out today that it was official that Kellen Moore was getting the job. I was sad for like 30 seconds, but I'm over it. And when I really think about it, like there was no better hire there was nothing else. There was no door number 2 that would make me happier. So my question to you is, was there anything they could have done to make you happier? And on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolute certainty, 1 being first pick in the draft 2 of the next 3 years, what's the success going to be of Kellen Moore? I'll start with you, Andrew.
Oh, I mean, I can't answer that second question. I'd say a 5 at this point. I have no idea how it's going to go. I mean, you know, I'm not like, yeah, they're winning the Super Bowl next season. I definitely don't feel that way. Like, are they going to be a 3-win team next year? I mean, that's possible. I kind of doubt it. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. As far as how happy I am about the hire, it took me a while to come around to Kellen Moore. Like at first, like I saw that name, I was like,
shout out to Budrich.
Yeah, like at first I would be like, yeah, maybe, but there's probably other guys. I was bullish on Aaron Glenn for a while. So look, the way this played out was arduous and it was difficult and it was scary at times, right? When Joe Brady pulled out and Mike McCarthy, it was weird. Like, is he coming? Is he not coming? And so, and for a second there, it felt like we were going to have to settle for Rizzy because no one else was going to take this freaking job. So I like the way it played out and warming up to Kellen Moore, learning about him, getting more familiar with him, him winning the Super Bowl, putting up 40 points in the Super Bowl, 33, I guess, if you want to take away the pick six. Like, I couldn't be happier, like, with the way it played out because, like, this was arduous. It was long. It was scary. And I just feel like in the end, they get the guy that just won the Super Bowl. And like, if we went through all this just to end up at Rizzy, like that would be horrible. So, and no offense to Rizzy. Like I liked him. Like I liked what he did for the Saints, but you know, I think all things considered, and especially with that narrative out there of no one wanting to come, like this played out about as good as it could have for the Saints. So like we can argue, like, would you have rather Johnson or Vrabel? You know, if you could pick, would you rather have those guys? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't really know. But the Saints have a bright young mind, a young head coach, an offensive genius, a guy that just won the Super Bowl. Like, there's so much to like here.
Yeah.
Kevin? So I'm really pleased.
Kevin?
Yeah, I remember weeks ago it was me and you talking, and I was not so enthusiastic about Kellen Moore. And I just said, I'm sure that by some point I'll be able to convince myself or talk myself into, if they hired Kellen Moore, if it was somebody else, I'd be able to, go with it. And then we'd reevaluate it at the draft and at other points. Where we are on Monday, after the
Super Bowl
news drop. Sorry, I'm just like at a loss for words here. I am at about a 6 right now.
Yeah.
In terms of excitement. Maybe a 7, and but that's because that's a lot due to the Super Bowl. Like,
Yeah.
I am a lot more excited.
We needed that Philadelphia win.
Right. I am a lot more.
We needed
right.
it.
Well, not only did we need the Philadelphia win, we needed that.
The offense looked good.
We needed that giant bomb that Jalen Hurts threw.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
We needed that. I'm going to take my pants down and Milton Berle you to death. Right. We needed that.
Like,
Yeah,
wouldn't this have been so much worse if the Chiefs had won 27-10 and the Eagles looked like shit? Like,
Yes. It
would
would.
you, like, I would ask Saint Swift, would you rather that? Would you rather hire Kellen Moore on the other side of that?
Yeah. Like,
Or if the Eagles won and it was like 13-10 and it was just a big defensive slog back and forth. Nobody could do anything.
yeah.
But I'm more excited based off of what the Eagles did in the NFC title game and the Super Bowl, like a combined 90-something points hadn't been done.
Points, yeah.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
So, yeah, and then in terms of like, would I have wanted to see somebody else? Like, yeah, like up until he dropped out, like I was excited for Joe Brady. So.
I think, Kevin, I'm like an 8.5 in his excitement, and here's the reason why.
Prisoner of the moment, Ralph.
Yeah,
I'm prisoner of the moment. I am prisoner of the moment.
We need the prison gate
Bars.
sound effect. We need that
Moment.
There it is.
So I'm excited. I'm 8.5, and here's why, Kevin. And I think we'll end here, but I think you need to get more excited. I think Kellen Moore, I think his football dorkness, it extends not just to game planning, it extends to analytics. And I'm hopeful that it extends to the draft. And he is going to infuse the Saints draft philosophy with the football dorkness that we've been dying for them to have. And I think it's going to infuse the whole organization, and they're going to trade down finally. So that's why I'm super excited about Kellen Moore.
Don't insert GIF. Don't give me hope. Just to be clear, you are excited. You're excited, right?
Yes, I am.
And you're about an 8.5.
That's right.
Congratulations to your wife.
So on that note, we end, guys. Thanks a bunch.
There we go.
Thanks for joining us. We were the first ones to have a breaking news podcast on it. It broke like 5 minutes ago, and you're listening to this podcast. So if you listen to the end and you're listening to the free version, go to patreon.com/Saints Happy Hour. Check out our Kellen Moore discount. You get sign up and you get 2 months for free. That's why we're celebrating the Saints' new coach. Join our community. It's amazing. You should do it. Thanks to Kevin, Andrew, Thomas running the show back in Poland. Until next time, the bar is closed.
Kellen Moore, let's go. Who dat?